Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. So I just got back from a 2-week trip on the East Coast, and the primary reason for doing this was to go to the Gear Fest event at Sweetwater. I went to last year's, and one of the coolest things that happened last year was I was able to take the MusicNomad Kaizen prototype, take it apart, and do a deep dive on it before anybody else got to see it. And that happened again this year. I was able to go at Sweetwater after the event at night, and they gave me a room that I could use. And I was able to spend some time with the new Myles PRS and the new NF53. However, today's video is the Myles guitar. I'm going to be showing you a deep dive of the guitar, and of course at the end of the video I'll give you my final thoughts. So in today's deep dive we're going to be checking out the Myles signature guitar. Starting on the headstock, we have a rosewood veneer, and then the Myles has an owl logo on this aluminum truss rod cover, as you can see right here. We have a bone nut. And then we have a maple fretboard. Now this is important because it does not appear to be a one-piece neck. If you look here, you can see there is a fretboard right here. So you can see this piece right here. So you have 3 pieces. And you see right here, you have a scarf joint. It's really subtle, but it's right here. And I'll actually show you how they do this.
In the past, I've shown you how manufacturers do scarf joints, but in this case, I'm going to show you actual footage right here of them making a neck. This is exactly how this neck was put together.
Looking at the back, you have Clusson style keys.
But from the top, you can see that they're locking keys, which is a nice improvement over the NF53 because for the same price, it has non-locking keys.
This is a bolt-on neck onto a swamp ash body.
I was able to check out about a half a dozen of these guitars at the event, and from what I can tell, every single one of them was a 3-piece body, but they may be 3- and 2-piece bodies, and they came in a lot of colors. Hunter's green, they came in a burst, they came in white, they came in black, and of course natural.
And here's your plate with Myles signature. You have the belly carve right here. And then of course you have 2 narrow-filled pickups, pick guard that is plastic.
Now looking at the bridge, we can see it's the same bridge you see on the Paul Reed Smith Vela. It's got the brass compensated saddles, it's top loaded, and essentially what they did is they took a great bridge that's on the Vela and they put it on this guitar.
Here's a little something to mention. These are top loaded. The strings are top loaded. They're not through the body. And you can see right here, let me show you one. You can go in right here and they just hook right into there like so. This is called the cheese grater test. This is where we take our hand with nylon sock and go ahead and try to see if we can snag a hand or anything on this end. You can see just some minor spots right there, but I'd like to point out if you go on the side right here, no issues here. Nothing here to worry about. In fact, more so the strings than the bridge. No screws pointing out, nothing like that. So overall, like I said, I'd say a 4 out of 5 if you're worried about your hand, if you're sensitive there. Some guitar players really just don't like anything poking them. I think they did a really good job making this smooth. You can see here they rounded these corners. There's just a lot of tension, this brass piece right here. Again, not having any of the grub screws sticking out. A lot of attention to detail here, so something to point out. You have a volume and tone and a 5-way switch. You have Blackbird inlays, 22 nickel frets, and let's get into how she's set up. What we have here is a 25.5-inch scale, and they've set the neck pretty much bone straight, which is something normal for PRS. There's usually not a lot of relief in the necks. Looking at the setup from the factory, we're looking at 1.75 millimeters or 0.07. So let's go ahead and check the nut slots. And you can see right here, a little trick we'd like to do, push down on the 3rd fret, and just to see how much play is in between the fret and the string. There's a little bit, but not much. These look great. I mean, it's beautiful work. I mean, I just gotta say, this nut is done really, really well. And that's something kind of PRS is known for. And of course, you're gonna see more and more bone nuts on their guitars. It seems like every new model has a bone nut. Okay, so let's go ahead and check these frets. Let's go ahead and start here.
This is a good time to mention that the neck is a natural finish. In other words, it's satin, where the NF53 is a gloss finish on the back of the neck.
Okay, so we have a little bit of a high fret right here, but it's not affecting any of the playability, but that one's just a little high.
This is why I always say play the guitar more than you diagnose the guitar, because playing, you'll detect real issues.
And another one right here, but this is again very minor. Okay, overall 2 minor issues, but again, not affecting playability. So let's go ahead and do the sock test, and that's where we're gonna check their front end work. And well, that's definitely a 5 out of 5. I'm gonna do that again. And 5 out of 5. In fact, we can use it for the bass side. Here we go. And 5 out of 5. So we actually get to reuse this sock. That's pretty cool. Thank you, PRS. So let's check the neck radius. Here's a pleasant surprise. When you look here, you will see it is a 10-inch radius on the 12th fret, and also a 10-inch radius on the 2nd fret. So we have a consistent 10-inch radius across the fretboard, and I'm really excited to see that because that's one of the things that I've never really loved about the John Mayer was the radius. Although I like it, I always love the 10-inch radius. I'm glad that they stuck with it on this model. On the nut, we are looking at 42.17 millimeters or 1.660. And on the 12th fret, we're at 52.48 millimeters or 2.066.
And for reference of how thick the neck is at the 1st fret, it's 22.62 millimeters or 57/64. And at the 12th fret, it's 24.58 millimeters or 31/32.
Let's go ahead and check the fretboard edges. And these are actually highly rolled edges. Definitely has that vintage rolled feel. You can even see it's rounded here. Very pleasant. And like I said, with those polish ends on the sock test, you can see this is a very comfortable feeling fretboard all the way around. So again, that's nice to see because this guitar is pretty expensive. So we have a tradition on this channel. It's called the handshake. That's where we take the guitar and grab it from behind the neck like so to see how it feels with your hand right here. And this actually feels exactly like the old NF3 and DC3, if you guys remember that. It's very rounded, it's comfortable right there. There's nothing poking you because it's not squared off, but it's also very thick right there. See, there's a lot of space right there. So, I mean, it's definitely not gonna be, you know, convenient for a lot of you guys that really want to play really up high and shred, kind of get in there. It's hard for me to get my fingers in that position. Now, one thing that's nice is they did this cutaway right here, and that does help as the angle helps, putting your hand right there. But overall, that's not something I think you're going to be buying this guitar for. Very cool, but handshake is the same as a Fender, but probably not better than a Fender. I removed all the screws to the pickguard, and I want to see if the pickguard is a facade. There is screws right here, but I don't know what the pickup is attached to, so let's go ahead and remove that. Lift that up, it's clean and easy. And you can see right here, routed into the body where the pickup goes, but you can see that the pickup is mounted to the pickguard. You have a 1-ply black pickguard right here. And then of course on this pickup, we can see, what can we see? It says PRS NF MK, which I'm sure stands for Myles Kennedy, TCI, which is tuned capacitance inductance, and of course, a lot of wires. No, you have 4-wire conductor right here. So let's see what these pickups are reading. I am pretty shocked. So we have here the humbucker reading in at 6.56K. And then let's go ahead and check a couple things. So then we're going to the neck pickup, and the neck pickup is reading at 5.39K. So that puts it in the single coil territories. Interesting, right? That's a different kind of pickup. So these are not heavily wound, overwound pickups. They're not putting out a lot of, at least there's not a lot of winds of copper and a lot of resistance on there. So that DCR is interesting. I'm curious to see what it's going to sound like. I think it's going to sound pretty clear and articulate. That's usually what you'll see. Now, of course, there's other factors, what type of magnet, and of course, what the inductance is, but just going off some basic stuff, that looks pretty interesting. Let's look at the electronics in the back. First thing I want to show you is that the back plate is recessed into the guitar. What do we have here? What we have here is a 5-way super switch. That's why you have 2 rows right here. And then you have a push-pull potentiometer with a capacitor here for your tone control. 0 friction volume pot right there, so it's going to feel really smooth. And of course, you have a treble bleed right here. And this treble bleed's a little different than what I've seen them do in the past with PRS. A little different. Overall, pretty clean work. Of course, like I said, every time you see the white powder, that's buffing compound from when they buffed it. Backplate is got copper shielding on it. And one thing we don't know is if the cavity is shielded. I'm looking. One thing we're seeing now with manufacturers is they shield the cavity and then they paint it. I'm going to assume it might be shielded, but we don't know for sure, unfortunately. Okay, so on your output jack, one thing I love is they always use a really robust output jack, and I love that they've always used a metal plate, or at least the majority of the PRSs have a metal plate. Really, really nice. Takes a lot of abuse.
And just like all the CEs and the S2s, this comes with a premium deluxe Paul Reed Smith gig bag that's really well padded, so that's what's included in the price. So let's look at some market comparables. This guitar is $2,900, and the interesting part is, even though it's a signature model, the non-signature model is also $2,900. However, the S2 Vela, which is made in the same factory, $1,750 with a set neck, or $1,550 if you want a satin finish. Some other comparable guitars are the Neg's Chop Tank, which is about $4,000 and up. The Godin Stadium HT, which is a fantastic guitar, sub $1,200, or for a little bit more of a premium model, you can get one at $1,400. Those are made in Canada. I also loaded in the exact same specs of this guitar into the Kaizen builder, and I was able to build out a guitar similar to this for $1,570. So that gives you a reference of prices for guitars. Now at the event, they had quite a few of them, so I was able to pick them all up and check them, and they were really light. Some of them were as light as 6 pounds, 10 ounces, and the heaviest one I could find was 7 pounds, 5 ounces. So these guitars are pretty light.
Right now is a perfect time to talk about our sponsor, Skillshare.
Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills.
Not only was I able to take a class on lighting, I was able to take a class on recording. And one of the things I really enjoyed is that they have the classes set by time. If you have 15 minutes to spare, that was a big deal for me because sometimes I was thinking when I was sitting around going, I got 15 minutes, let's learn something real quick. One of the instructors I really enjoyed was Chris Brooker, and I really like how he broke things down, but more importantly, I like that I could go to sections as I was setting up some new recording ideas.
The first 1,000 people to use the link down below will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So like I said, I was at Sweetwater at night, so I was able to not only go through the guitar like I've shown you, I was able to go ahead and play it and give you some sound samples just to give you a reference of all the sounds. So let's get into that.
To me, it's bright, not as bright as a Tele, but it's got the bright Tele thing. And that's obviously the bridge is gonna have a lot to do with that sound. This is what's interesting. Like I said, in the bridge position, without doing anything, you just pull up on the coil tap or the push-pull pot, and now you're at tone control halfway back. So I'll give you a comparison of both. Here's without it pushed or pulled up. Okay, pull it up halfway. I've talked about this recently in a video where essentially a lot of players do this thing where they want the tone control not to really kind of dampen the highs and kind of make it sound like this, like it's in the water. They really want it to take the pick chirp off. So a little bit that attack, that sound versus, right, get some of that out of there. But also, I think when I heard him talking, he was looking for something to kind of, yeah, so obviously we're running a gain, a lot of gain, mid gain, and you're chunking on this thing. Just a little beefy. Okay, so in position 2, now we're supposed to have a bridge and a single coil neck. So again, bridge, single coil neck. I love this sound. This is a really cool sound because this would be like having your Tele bridge and neck pickup, but of course humbucker single, which is cool. For comparison, if I go to the next middle position, we're going to go from humbucker single to single singles. Sorry, humbucker single to humbucker. Humbucker. Yeah. So it thins out a little bit. The neck pickup becomes a little fuller. Back to that humbucker single. So yeah, that's a nice tone there. Versus. Okay, now in the 4th position, now we have 2 single coils. So essentially this would be your Tele tone. Now we're gonna have the 5th position, which is essentially just the neck pickup. But what's cool is, in the knob down position, there is no tone control. In other words, there's no tone rolled off. So you have your neck humbucker. or you can do it halfway. But what's really cool is if you're in the bridge and you turn it halfway, it does the same thing as pulling on it. But if you go to the neck, that tone control is also halfway. So what they did, or what Myles did, was he had them wire it so, again, it's pull up, your bridge now is... You have that humbucker with the tone control halfway, but if you go right to the neck, it bypasses the tone control. It's a really nice tonal option. Very cool. Okay, let's go ahead and try some overdrives. Okay, so let's go ahead and try something with overdrive. Yeah, I can see where this is not pushing the amp very hard. So you can tell these kind of pickups are going to sound great if you have a high gain amp. They're going to seem really clear and defined. If you have a mid to low gain amp, you're going to see that these pickups aren't going to drive it very hard. So you're going to want to use a boost if you get above there. Feels great. The chords are... That is a great mix of pickup tones. So you have the bridge, neck pickup. And we saw that when we were metering them. The neck pickup's gonna have a little less whines, so it's gonna be pushing a little less. Let's try a little bit more gain, see what happens.
Before we finish the sound test, I thought it'd be nice to do a side-by-side to hear how the Myles Kennedy and the NF53 sound since we're playing through the same rig. So as you can see, that's an overwhelming guitar. There are a few things that I have to say that are good and bad, and these are just my personal opinions, but maybe they'll help you if you're looking at getting this guitar.
I have to say, of the NF53 and the Myles Kennedy, I really preferred the neck on the Myles Kennedy because it was a satin finish. I like gloss finish necks, but I preferred the satin finish on the Myles Kennedy. Neck profile, they were almost identical in every way, so there wasn't anything that made me kind of like one neck profile over the other, way it felt, or radius, anything. Pickup wise, I actually kind of liked the Myles Kennedy pickups. I liked having a little clearer tone, and I actually liked all the switching that the Myles Kennedy gave you, but I like the finish. I like the dog hair finish on the NF53. I was really shocked by the price. In fact, that was the thing that taken me back. For basically $3,000, it was a lot to take in. I think it's really more about taking the guitar players that really love Paul Reed Smith guitars and giving them another option to buy. I mean, at this point, if you're a Paul Reed Smith fan and you love their guitars, you can get a Strat, a Les Paul, a PRS style, custom 24, 22, some oddball guitars, hollow bodies, acoustics, bass guitars, you name it. You can complete your entire collection with just one brand, and maybe that's what their goal is. So I think that's what that's probably what this is more focused on. And that's kind of my opinion. It's just as simple as they made a great guitar. It's got some cool features. If you're into PRS, I think you'll like this. And I think if you're really a traditional Tele person, I don't know if this is going to appeal to you any more than any other guitar that's ever tried something like this, a hybrid variation in the past. Man, of course, are we all going to be excited if they come out with an SE version of this. I just think when it came to the Silver Sky, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like the SE version really made the Silver Sky a lot of fun. It took it from it being a very expensive guitar that was very good to a more obtainable guitar that was also very good. To me, this kind of guitar with an SE would be really, really cool. As always, guys, I want to thank you so much for your time, for hanging out with me today in today's video. Till the next time, know your gear.
How do you get a guitar player turned down? Put sheet music in front of him. Or we could do, what do you call a guitar player that's homeless? Oh, he just lost his girlfriend.